Sheamus, I want you to aggressively take him over with a headlock 3 or 4 times. And then Apollo is going to fight back and aggressively take you over with a series of headlocks. And then, after Sheamus gets the heat, I want him to apply more headlocks. That was the story of this match. Why was this not on the pre-show, or why did it just not take place?
We have talked many times over the years about how horrible WWE camera work is between the zooming and the number of rapid-fire cuts that go on. I think Impact at its worst was actually worse than them in this. But the reason I bring this up, there was a point where Sheamus applied a chinlock for a long time, and there was so much nothing going on, they did the longest unbroken camera shot on a WWE show in I don't know how long. He's got him in a chinlock.
And it looked cool.
He's locked up his chin. And they cut to the camera guy on the floor, and he's on the floor over in one corner of the ring. And he does a long, slow walk across to the other corner while doing like a panning shot, so the whole thing goes from left to right. Yeah, it looked cool. It took like 15 seconds.
Man.
Because there's nothing going on.
Kevin Dunn must have taken a bathroom
Nap?
break.
Yeah.
He came back and was infuriated.
So, as always, when Sheamus was throwing elbows, JBL says, it's like Temple Bar on the River Liffey. I've been to Temple Bar on the River Liffey. I saw no elbows. I saw no fighting. It was much more entertaining than this match. So, finally, Sheamus hits white noise off the middle rope, which was very scary. Apollo kicks out of that. Sheamus is arguing with the ref, and Apollo cradles him for the win. A good finish to a bad match.
I have nothing to add.
Had a wacky commercial for Battleground where everyone on the roster has their own custom flag.
That must be the next pay-per-view.
Yes,
you were wondering about that.
I forgot about this.
Now you know. It's Battleground.
Battleground, then SummerSlam. But the point is, everyone, Roman Reigns has the Roman Reigns flag, and Sami Zayn has the Sami Zayn flag. And it's all very melodramatic and goofy. And then in the middle of it, there's Chris Jericho with a Chris Jericho flag. That fits. The character of Chris Jericho should wave his own flag.
Sure.
I hope he keeps this. All right, with the garbage out of the way, it was time for the actual show.
This was where the show did a total 180.
I don't know if this is possible. Someone needs to do a graph of match quality versus time for all WWE pay-per-views. Because if you track that, this would be a very, very flat line, very low on the graph. Then in the middle of the show, a very, very high line all the way through.
Yeah.
Or very, very, yeah.
Well, until Rusev and Titus O'Neil.
I did forget about that one. Yeah.
It was easy to forget.
Fair enough. So AJ versus Cena. Crowd is going nuts at the beginning, chanting for both guys. They're just doing nothing, letting the crowd get out of their system. John Cena has been in 100 matches this big, and he's standing back in the corner laughing at just how amazing this is. So the story of this match was AJ, as promised, was the better wrestler than John Cena. And John Cena couldn't do a damn thing with him for most of the match. AJ was too fast, or he was too smart, or he was too evasive. There was most of Cena's offense was countered throughout the entire match. Now, the announcers never brought this up because the announcers are absolutely goddamn terrible at their jobs. But I'm watching this, and Cena was frustrated early, and then after about 3 or 4 minutes, and he was just selling. He was losing, just fighting to survive. And I'm on Twitter watching this, and who should X-Pac notes, John Cena really did just get back from China. He's got to be suffering from jet lag.
That's
right now.
right.
You'd think the announcers would bring this up because it's their job.
No, because they're complete numbskulls. But I had a million people saying, why does John Cena look tired? Why does John Cena not look like his usual active self? Mm-hmm. And yes, not only was it his first major big-time match back, but he had just flown back from China.
Yeah.
What the fuck do you expect out of the guy?
Yes.
Nobody bothered to mention that, though.
No. And it fit in. I didn't even know if that was their plan, but it fit in so well with how the match was going. Because early on, AJ was taunting him. He was honestly, there's a point here, he was literally being Muhammad Ali. He was floating like butterfly, stinging like a bee repeatedly. And then there was a point where it switched, and Cena was just down. He was hurt. He was in deep trouble. And AJ, tiny little AJ, was working him over methodically. And things slowed down, and Cena just couldn't catch his breath. And it fit in with what they were doing.
Would it have been that hard if these announcers weren't absolute idiots to even make up another story and say, John Cena was over in China and he has just flown back. He's jet-lagged. He's tired. But AJ Styles, he flew into Las Vegas a week ago.
Yeah.
And wanted to make sure that he wasn't suffering from any sort of jet lag or the time difference from Las Vegas to wherever the fuck he lives in Georgia. He wanted to make sure that he was ready to go, and he flew in and he was ready for this match. The match is 30 minutes long, for crying out loud. It takes 2 seconds for somebody to bring that up.
So every time Cena tried to start his comeback, like he'd hit the tackles, but then AJ would counter the protoplex. Then he'd try the protoplex, but AJ would counter the fist drop. On and on and on. It just told a brilliant story. And he finally succeeded in making his comeback. He started trading finishers. Great spot where AJ tries the elbow. Cena catches him for the AA, but AJ turns that into the calf slicer. That ruled. Trading strikes. AJ hits the Pele kick. Hits the Styles Class. Cena kicks out. AJ does a springboard 450. Cena gets the knees up. AJ hits the knees and then flips over onto his back. So basically, he did almost 2 full flips in that one move. And then they're going back and forth. Cena gets him up on his shoulders. And the ref gets bumped. And Cena hits the AA. And here's what really occurred to me. You know, I know this is not breaking news. Ref bumps almost always suck. But this looks so hokey. This is not the kind of blow that would make me believe that grown man is going to be rendered unconscious for minutes at a time here.
Well, it got him right on the chin. It was a perfectly timed boot.
I see. So he goes out, he's down. Cena hits the AA and makes the cover. There is no ref. He gets the visual pin. But then, of course, Gallows and Anderson run down. They hit the Magic Killer. They put AJ on top. They flee, and the ref recovers and counts 3, and AJ pins Cena. So no, Finn Balor did not debut.
Nope.
And it was a good finish because they can go right to the rematch and Cena can say you only won because of your goons. But it's funny to me, the booking of AJ, it just keeps going in circles. He's a new guy in the scene. He can't beat Jericho on his own. But now he's fighting Roman anyway. But he needs help from his buddies. He doesn't think he needs help from his buddies. But now his buddies are all back together. Then they get banned from ringside, and they come out and cheat and help him win anyway. I feel like it's just a big treadmill. AJ is great.
Well, here's the deal. I saw everybody on Twitter upset about the finish. And all I could think was, it doesn't matter how much you or me or all of the people on my Twitter like AJ Styles. He's a heel. He's a bad guy.
Yeah.
They're all bad guys. So no shit, the first opportunity, he's going to come out and he's going to have his buddies help him.
That would be fine. My point is not that this in a vacuum was bad. My point is more his booking has been so frenetic and
Dude,
inconsistent.
Did you watch the main event with Seth Rollins as
I did.
a total babyface and Roman Reigns as a total heel?
That is another example that this company has no idea what they're doing from one moment to the next.
I thought this match was great.
This match was awesome.
I loved this match. It's not even really a criticism. I just didn't quite understand it. So one would think that they're going to have another match. Now, if you're going to have another match, this to me felt like the third match of a series, or at least the second match, because all they did was counter each other's moves. Like there was no match where they just did a match, and then there were some moves, and then there was a finish. And then in the second match, you're doing all the moves from the first match and countering all of them. I guess the assumption is everybody knows all of John Cena's moves. Everybody knows all of AJ Styles' moves. So you may as well just counter the moves in the first match. But to me, what do you have now for a second match? Unless you're just going to go right to a cage or something like that. They've already done all of the counters for everything. Mm-hmm. They've kicked out of everything. They've countered everything. So I don't even know what's next. But this was great.
This was tremendous. The Money in the Bank ladder match, Del Rio versus Owens versus Jericho versus Ambrose versus Zayn versus Cesaro.
Let me tell everybody a little bit about this company. When they were first announcing a Money in the Bank ladder match, they had a graphic on Raw that showed Jericho, Cesaro, Zayn, Del Rio, Kevin Owens, Dean Ambrose, and a shadow.
Yes.
Because there was going to be another man. Now, a lot of this is nitpicking because who fucking cares how many people are in the Money in the Bank ladder match? It absolutely does not matter one bit. But it is an interesting thing to consider because it is proof when people go, oh, Bryan was wrong, he just claims they changed their mind. No, they change their mind all the time. They had a graphic with a shadow. So after a while, they took the shadow out of the graphic, and they just had the 6 men. So seemed like, okay, they've decided to have only 6 men. So then, this week, on the WWE Network, on This Week in WWE, Granny's favorite show, they had a graphic for the Money in the Bank ladder match that included Chris Jericho, Cesaro, Sami Zayn, Alberto Del Rio, Kevin Owens, Dean Ambrose, and Kalisto.
Oops.
And then he just wasn't in the match. So, for those of you wondering, this happens all the time.
So for a long time, this was very similar to many of the ladder matches we've seen. A lot of very contrived spots, a lot of guys falling onto ladders, and for a while, it felt more contrived and less dangerous than usual. There was a point where they spent about 3 minutes setting up. It was basically, if I remember right, it was 2 big ladders in the middle of the ring with ladder bridges on either side. And they spent so damn long setting this up, like even the announcers were like, why would you do this? Why don't they try to climb and win? They couldn't pretend to make it part of the competitive environment. And the big payoff to all of it was everyone just paired off, stood on a ladder, and traded punches. Now, by the end, there was a lot of insanity. I think the most insane spot was Sami Zayn grabs Owens. There's a ladder set up on its side in the ring, and Sami hits a Michinoku driver onto the ladder with the very point of it right in the small of Owens' back, and Owens' back is arched with his head on the ground. That looked agonizing.
Keep in mind, this is a guy that, when he first came to WWE, he had been battling back problems for years.
I can't imagine.
Why in the world would you ever take this spot?
He had Cesaro hit Del Rio with a giant swing. Then he hits Jericho with a giant swing. Except about 6 revolutions in, he lets go, and Jericho goes flying through the air into the corner, crashes into a ladder. Jesus Christ. So we had more wackiness. All 6 dudes climbing 2 ladders in the middle of the ring.
I think those were the 2 craziest ladder spots, but I would be remiss if I did not mention the ridiculous spot where Del Rio did an armbar on the top of a ladder.
That could have been very bad.
What a dumb move. Think about this. First off, you're upside down if you're Del Rio. And when you let go, there's only one way that you're going to go, which is down towards your head.
There's that.
Now, luckily, he held onto the ladder and he twisted halfway and landed on his ass. But still, the idea that you would do a move where you're hanging upside down on the top of a ladder, first off, that's just idiotic. And more so, you can't win by submission.
Well, you can break the dude's arm.
You can break his arm, but you climb a ladder with your legs.
Well, okay.
Right? Why didn't he
I do.
At least do a knee bar
You got me, yeah.
on top of the ladder. So that was really dumb.
So finally, it comes down to Dean and Owens brawling on top of the ladder, and it just occurred to me, they did the exact same finish. Owens did this, I think it was Steen and Generico versus the Briscoes, but one of the ladder matches in Ring of Honor, where he's fighting on top of the ladder, gets punched down, and falls on top of a ladder bridge. And Dean grabs the briefcase and he wins. And the key point, really, to this is that Dean Ambrose is the wild man. He has an asylum. He's crazy. He's always on the verge of an emotional breakdown. But he gets this briefcase. And his celebration is to stand on the ladder with his arms at his sides, one of them holding the briefcase. His face is stoic, and his eyes are just doing a blank stare. And he has plans. This was a big deal.
You know what's funny is Raw was built around the idea that Dean Ambrose claimed he was going to win and he was going to cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase tonight. Dean Ambrose had done an interview earlier where he teased that he was going to win and cash in the briefcase tonight. And then after he won, I guess they thought, well, we still want it to be a surprise. So the announcers are not allowed to talk about whether or not Dean Ambrose is going to cash in after the main event tonight.
Yeah.
It was virtually like blackout. Like they do with these. By the way, there was a game tonight, I hear.
A sporting event was played.
Sporting event.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think that the Rusev deal went as long as it did just so they could wait until the game was over. Because I had heard that the pay-per-view was going to go long, but the pay-per-view went so long, like 27 minutes past the top of the hour, that I think they actually were waiting for it to end.
Well, okay. On that note, so the ladder match is over. And this Rusev Titus O'Neil match begins. At the point the ladder match ended, the basketball game was tied at 89 with 3 minutes to go.
Yes.
I was doing real-time note-taking via Twitter. And I strongly suspect they said, you know what, Rusev, Titus, Just go out there to that goddamn game.